President Trump claims serious trade talks with China are on the way as he finishes the G7 summit in France. In a meeting with Egypt's president, Mr. Trump said Chinese leaders called him to say they want to negotiate after he threatened even higher U.S. tariffs on more than $500 billion in Chinese goods. Now, the president's statement made Wall Street stock futures jump. China's foreign ministry spokesman said this morning he has not heard about those phone calls that the president mentioned, but Mr. Trump says there has been communication at the highest level.
Meanwhile, the latest CBS News poll finds a majority of Americans believe President Trump is responsible for the current state of the economy. 42% say his policies impact the economy a great deal, and only 8% say his policies impact the economy not at all. Paula Reid is at the G7 summit traveling with the president. Paula, China is not in the G7 but seems to loom large there. Why?
Absolutely, Tony. President Trump is under enormous pressure to show that his tough-talking trade strategy is working. But several of the other G7 leaders have used their meetings with the president here in France to express their concerns about his approach.
I think it's been really a productive G7. And coming to a close,
President Trump tried to put a positive spin on his escalating trade war with China amid concerns from other world leaders that his approach is hurting the global economy.
We've gotten 2 calls, and very, very good calls, very productive calls. They mean business. They want to be able to make a deal.
But the White House has been saying for weeks that China wants a deal, but it's unclear if there's actually been any movement. China's foreign minister had a sobering take, saying only that China hopes the U.S. can come back to a path of rationality.
One of the reasons that China is a great country is they understand how life works.
On Friday, the U.S. announced it would increase existing tariffs on China after it added retaliatory tariffs on $75 billion worth of U.S. imports, sending stock markets into turmoil.
China was going to overtake us. Not going to happen. Not going to happen anytime, I'll tell you, when I'm here.
The tension between the world's 2 largest economies has haunted the president throughout a summit that he hoped would project strength back at home. Other world leaders have expressed concern about his approach. At one point, even the president appeared to have misgivings.
Any second thoughts on escalating the trade war with China?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Second thoughts?
Might as well. Might as well.
You have second thoughts about escalating the war with China?
I have second thoughts about everything.
The White House insisted the remarks were greatly misinterpreted, but even one of Mr. Trump's closest allies, Britain's new Prime Minister Boris Johnson, urged him to alter his approach.
Just to register as a faint sheep-like note of our view on the trade war. We're in favor of trade peace on the whole.
Sure.
In favor of trade peace.
President Trump tried to pivot from all the controversy surrounding China to more favorable trade news, including a possible trade deal with Japan, that country to buy U.S. corn and wheat. Now, that deal would likely need congressional approval, something the president has not been able to secure for his proposed trade deal with Canada and Mexico. Gayle?
Boy, Paula, pivot, seesawing, back and forth. A lot of confusion around this topic. So what do you think comes next for the U.S. and China in this trade dispute?
Well, you're right. Wall Street will be watching amid all of this confusion as talks continue between the world's 2 largest economies. Look, they've been going on for months with no sign of a deal in sight. White House officials tell CBS News they expect to have another call with China later this week and even in-person meetings in Washington next month. Later today, the president will have a press conference. Gayle is expected to be pressed on his trade war, knowing his answers and the outcome will have enormous implications for U.S. markets and his chances of re-election.
And we'll all be watching. Paula Reid reporting from France. Thank you.